this is Dominic, wedding DJ.
And this is Serena, wedding planner.
And together we are the Wedding Duo. We are here to talk all things weddings.
Planning a wedding can be stressful, but we are here to help.
So before you say, that's it, we're going to Vegas, don't go to Vegas.
Let's have some fun.
Join us as we answer your wedding questions and help navigate planning one of the biggest days of your life with the Wedding Duo. Hey, welcome back. We're here again. What episode is this?
This is episode 7 of the Wedding Duo podcast.
Almost the double digits.
Can't believe it. We are going to be there before we know it. And last episode was episode 6, obviously. We had our first guest, Trevor Martin, with Trevor Martin Music, and he talked all about having live musicians at your event. But today we're going to talk about something I think you guys will really get a lot out of. And what is that?
It's the length of your event and what you can do if you don't have much time to like tighten it up. Like, where can I pick up some time? Because I feel like the whole thing, we're trying to do a whole lot in a little amount of time.
Right. So we got a lot of feedback when we did a video on TikTok where we talked about the average length of an event is 6 hours. Some people came back and said, I only have 5 hours or I only have 4 hours for my reception.
Right.
And so we wanted to give some tips on what works and what doesn't.
Yeah. We'll do a TikTok on it, but I thought there's a lot of different stuff you can do, or you should consider, because again, we always say, and we'll say it again, no two events are the same. Like, just because, you know, your cousin did a 9-hour event and you danced for 6 hours, that's a long time to dance. Think about it. People don't go to the club for that long, but we did it. I had 2 events this past weekend. One of them was, I had about an hour and 10 minutes and I was just like, go, banger, like throwing all the big hits. And the other one, we danced for about 4 hours. And it's just such a different event. And the reason we talk about 6 hours is because that's a very common time that people have from the ceremony to the thank you goodnight in one location.
Right. And that's in the United States. So if you're listening, and you're not in the United States, we know that sounds insane. You all party like we don't even know. So please take that with a grain of salt if you're not here. So
this is, we're talking, you may take a nugget of knowledge out of this if you're somewhere other than America, but this is the traditional American length. And like I said, when I said on one site, that's like there are venues that have the ceremony site outside and everybody shows up, you park one time and you're there till the very end. Whereas if you're getting married in the church, that's a whole different animal. So we'll talk briefly about that.
Sure. So we can start off there. So something to be mindful of, if you're getting married in the church, there are times that they will give you. Usually they'll say you can have your service. Give you is the term. Yeah. They will tell you, you either have 2 p.m. or 4 p.m. And the reason is they usually have events or mass or something at different times. So they're squeezing you in between. So what can happen is that you maybe get married at 2 o'clock, right? And you have an hour-long service, maybe, especially in the Catholic Church. And then you don't want to start your reception till 5 p.m. So there can be that gap in between. And a lot of times we get the question like, what do I do? What do I have my guests do during that 2 hours sometimes period? And it can be challenging. I will tell you, especially if you have guests coming from out of town, they don't know where they are or what to do during that time. Yeah. And so if it's a good distance from the hotel, they can't go back. The kids are all dressed up. Like, how do you keep Billy in his little suit? And it's not even that. It's your gender. Y'all don't want to wear them shoes for any longer than not any longer than we have to. Yeah. So absolutely. It's a great idea to give suggestions on where they can go during that time, or even have a place that you've already set up for people to congregate, because they're going to have to go somewhere. And what ends up happening more times than not is they go to the reception venue and it is not ready for them yet. It isn't open for them to come in and get drinks. There isn't anywhere for them to go. And it's really hard if everybody's setting up still and here come the guests. And as a DJ, I'm like, oh, should I put music on? We have guests already, even though I'm not supposed to start for another hour. That's kind of a gray area, right? And just trying to set up table settings. People are going up to the bar asking to get stuff. And it's like, they're not on the clock yet. They're not scheduled to open, and they may open and then charge you. I mean, that stuff happens. Believe me, that stuff happens. Yeah. So it's just really something to consider, that you want to have that conversation with your church before maybe you make a decision on what time to start your reception, so that you can shorten that length as much as possible. The other thing you're going to want to consider is if you're moving people from one spot to another, from church to reception area, the drive, traffic, keep that stuff in mind too.
Construction.
Yeah. So if
A
there's
shuttle, if everybody's taking a shuttle, they may not all fit in one. So there may be 2 trips. So there's a lot of other different logistics there.
Right. So that's some important tidbits if you're having your ceremony in a church. So now we'll switch to a different type of venue, obviously, where you have the ceremony at the same place as you're having your reception. Maybe it's in a different location, but it's in the same building or not building, area. Yeah.
Same space. Property, the same property. That's
the word. Property.
And like I said before, like 6 hours is very common. And if you have a 6-hour event from beginning of the ceremony to thank you, good night, usually if you do the usual stuff, and a half-hour ceremony is pretty common, hour cocktail, hour dinner, first dances, toasts, cutting cake, all the other stuff, you're going to get about 2 to 2.5 hours, give or take, of dancing time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's on the chopping block, right? If you decide to go shorter than 6 hours, and this is all kind of just, like I said, it's not exact, but it's if you go shorter than 6 hours, that's what gets chopped off is your dancing time. Because you're not pulling the ceremony out, you're not pulling dinner out, you're not pulling your first dance out. It's how long do you want to dance? If you're not dancers and you just want to drink and catch up and then everybody's going to the after party to do the same thing,
right?
That's 4 hours for ceremony reception might be fine, right? And this is why I always say like no 2 events are the same. Or if Daddy Warbucks is writing all the checks and money is not an option, the budget is just whatever you want it to be, you can add more time on and then you can do a 2-hour dinner and then still have 4 hours of dancing.
Yes.
But keep in mind your guests might be tired, especially if people have jet lagged or if they have kids, or if they have to work the next day. A Friday or a Sunday is going to be different than a Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
All these things go into the hopper and you kind of figure it all out.
Exactly. And it's really important to be mindful, it is all about you and your marriage and you guys, your day, right? But the guest experience is often very important to every couple. And so the party time may be very important to you. We have a lot of couples who say, I just want to get to the party. I want to dance. So here are some of our number 1 tips on how to do so.
How to streamline your event, how to cut that fat off.
Right.
Metaphorically speaking, just to trim the fat. So like we just really don't want to waste any time. We want to just go so we can get to the dance floor.
Exactly.
And that part of the night is really nice for the couples as well, because especially the bride, she's up before the sun, right? For hair and makeup. And then it's go, get in the dress, get these pictures, get down the aisle, cut the cake, do the dance, throw the bouquet.
Right.
I'm not trying to stress anyone out, but that's the pace of the day.
Stress me out.
And it's nice at the end of the night when we can go up to our couples and we hand them a beverage. We're saying, here you go. We're done with all the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Enjoy your night. Talk to your cousins, dance with your friends, introduce your spouse to your favorite aunt, because people come to weddings that don't come to backyard barbecues or birthday parties, right? People come to weddings. So you need that time to just introduce your new spouse, because he may not have met some of your family and vice versa, or he or she. And you still want time to like enjoy your own party. That happens all the time. If you have a 4-hour event, it's just like, go. And then I say, thank you, good night. And the bride's like, what? I didn't get to dance one time.
Yeah.
But I spent 20 minutes talking to my mom's water aerobic friend. You're like, yeah, I know. You gotta, it's nice to have time to do it all, but it's just not, there's a lot.
Yeah. So we'll start at the beginning. So when you're picking a ceremony start time, I've had couples who they'll say, well, I'm going to put on the invitation one time and we're actually going to start a little later because they want to make sure that everybody's there and seated. And what I like to suggest is, okay, if you do that and you maybe do 15 minutes, that's okay. But you don't want to put a different time, like a half hour or so, because some guests will come in on time and then they'll be sitting there for 45 minutes waiting for the ceremony to start.
Or they'll be early. There's people that are early.
That understand the assignment.
Yes.
If we're talking about TikTok here, they'll come on time and inevitably some people will still be late. So
you know who we're talking to. It's that one cousin. It's like every time. Granted, if you have kids,
you get a little bit. You get a little bit of a pass.
Because that's always, you're like, where are your shoes? I got to find your other shoe.
But still, plan early, right?
Yes,
so
for sure.
The other thing is that I start my weddings on time. Honestly, like even if I will try to make a little window if I see people like walking down the hill to come sit. But at a certain point, it's go time and we are starting the ceremony, because what Dominic just referenced, your dancing time, your party time, your event time is on the chopping block. So the more we wait, the more we eat into all those other things that are happening later in the day.
And 5 minutes can turn into 20 minutes in the blink of an eye. And guests are showing up and everybody's just like, hey, oh my gosh, I haven't seen you in so long. Is this Billy? Jeez, look how big. Oh, you're so big, right?
It's exactly what happens.
All those conversations. Everybody's trying to catch up. But and it's nice if you have, not everybody can have vendors running around everywhere. Like this past weekend, we had an army on Saturday. There were 2 videographers, 2 photographers, 3 planners. I had somebody I was training. So I had 2 DJs, which is very rare. The catering had a whole staff. So the venue had 3 people. So there's all these people, but I know a lot of you out there are like,
that's not me.
We are DIY to the extreme. My cousin's doing the food. My friend is taking pictures. My aunt is the planner, right? So, and I get that, but you need to have somebody there to say, you got to start on time. Right. If somebody asks me, hey, I'm going to do this little trick where I'm going to tell people it's here, but it's actually going to start here. I like to talk people out of it. I'd say just pick a time because it can get confusing for your vendors too. Like, no, wait, I thought we were starting at 5, but this says 5:15. Like, am I charging you for that time? Like, what? Just pick a time and then you got to go. But to Serena's point, like if we're saying we're lined up because we were just at this venue recently and we can see where the parking lot is, there's a little pathway. We can see the people that are walking up. And so I was inside ready to start the music. You had everybody lined up.
Yep.
But we see like 2 or 3 couples walking up or a couple families. And we're like, okay, just wait, let them get in and get seated because you don't want halfway 3 bridesmaids go and 2 families scurry in between. Like that's just really, we're
I'll keep them out there too. I mean, luckily, they can wait for the procession for sure.
They do, but some people don't. Some people just push their way in there, and so there's all personalities come to these things, right? So that's not what we're talking about. If we're sitting there going like, well, hold on, let's just wait. I can like finish this other song. Well, we get those people in, but if there's a car that we see driving in, like they're going to have to wait. Like you got to go. You just got to get it going because your time starts. Your vendors are already on the clock and they're going home at the time that they are scheduled to go home at.
Right.
And people think like, oh, we'll just go a little longer. Like, no, the venue is turning the lights up because they got to flip the room. They got to clean everything up. They got to get ready for the event for the next day. A lot of us have one the next day, and that's just it's just a thing. You got to be mindful of. Yeah, absolutely.
So the average ceremony then takes about 30 minutes if you're not in a church setting usually. So you can, you're not going to save time or rush through the ceremony. There's no pointers there, but that's something to kind of plan for. But when we get to cocktail hour, some people want to do like a cocktail 45 minutes. They've talked to me before, but like, how can we speed up that portion? And the thing you want to think about here is, yes, you can do a shorter cocktail hour, but what will be sacrificed is your photos. Okay. If you have a ton of family coming from out of town, people that have never or haven't seen each other in forever, and you want to get those big family pictures, you're going to need the hour. You need the hour for photos.
And you want those photos, right?
This
is one of the times you may have 4 generations at one event. And that just doesn't happen very often. And you want to capture that picture with grandma and the babies and everybody together. Those are really fantastic photos.
But something that can save you on photo time, and I'm sure my photographer friends would agree, is if you do a first look before the ceremony, then you don't have to do pictures necessarily or as many with, for example, your bridal party or you two as a couple. So that can save you a little bit of time if you end up doing a first look.
Because they're there. It's the family that are showing up for the event. They're the ones that you can't do the pictures in advance, but you can capitalize that cocktail hour for those pictures if you have a lot of them. But your folks, the 2 of you and your wedding party, you can get a lot of those done
beforehand.
Up front. Yeah. So that's one place for sure.
Yeah. That's a good tip if you're considering doing a first look. So the next thing we're going to move into is now.
Wait, can I back up on one?
What?
So this happened this past weekend. It happens a lot. Let's just say that. If you have a friend that's doing the ceremony or a pastor or a priest and you're not in the church or whatever, because of course, if you're at the church, you're not going to tell the priest, can we speed this up a little bit? But sometimes, like I have seen what was supposed to be a 15-minute ceremony go 45 minutes because they just go on and on and on and on and on. And I'm like, dude, stop pontificating up there. Like slow down, like finish, be done. Exchange the rings. Let them say their vows. We all have heard Corinthians 13. That's a great thing. You read it in there. If you want to have some Bible verses in there, or your aunt come up and do a reading, but they will just go on and on. And it's just, they want to be up there and they just want to hear themselves talk. Tell your officiant, give them a script and say, we want to get to the rest of this party. There's a reason we're not in the church. We don't want an hour ceremony. Like finish it. Like tell them like, we really would like for this to be
20 minutes.
A 20-minute thing. Because with the music, with the processional, with the recessional, with all the cheers, And some things just go a little bit longer, some things are a little bit shorter, but just to have him, and it's really kind of one of those, him or her, just kind of go, really? I mean, you can just see it's hot. Everybody wants to go get a drink and they want to like catch up, but they got to sit there and just listen to somebody go on.
Okay. But we also want to be mindful, if you want that substance in your ceremony, if you want a lot of things done during the ceremony, that's okay. Don't feel, I mean, we're not trying to hate on any type of the religious portions of your ceremony.
And there's always a lot of the religions.
But I think, I think what his point is if you give them freedom to do whatever they want up there, which happens sometimes, they say, just, you've done these before, go ahead. Sometimes they will take that liberty and it will take a lot longer. So you are able to put your 2 cents or more into your ceremony and say, this is what we want said. This is how long we want it. That is okay.
And it works both ways. If you have your cousin that got ordained for the day, they're going to be nervous and they're going to be like, we're gathered for the day. Did you take the ring? I mean, they go really fast and it's like, whoa, time. Yeah. That's a record. That was a 7-minute ceremony.
Yes.
But the people that are in this industry that have that personality, like me, we're talkers. We are comfortable in front of a crowd. Mm-hmm. We like having a crowd, but something to consider. You can have you can give guidance on that as well.
Exactly. So now we're going to skip ahead. We talked about cocktail hour. And we're going to talk about when you get introduced into the reception, there's something that you're really going to want to be mindful of. And I think we've talked about this on previous episodes, the bustle. Okay. If there is one thing that can kind of throw off your timing at this point in the night, it's that. Because
what's the bustle? Some people don't know what a bustle is.
Yes. So the bustle is, if you have a long train on your dress or any type of train, you're going to actually button it up in the back so that you can walk and dance comfortably. So that is what is called the bustle.
Because people will step on your dress all night.
Well, you will step on your dress. It's it's challenging.
Is really hard. Yeah.
Right.
So if you're doing introductions right into your first dance, or if you're dancing with dad, or he's dancing with mom, or whatever, if you're doing those dances, the bustle has got to take place after ceremony, before.
I think it needs to happen there, even if you aren't, because you're getting up to go to the bathroom, you're getting up to talk to people, and it's just not as comfortable.
The minute you're in the crowd, people are all over that dress, and it's really hard.
Yeah. So you're going to want to do a few things. First of all, you're going to want to make sure that someone besides the bride knows how to bustle the dress and has preferably recorded it on their phone so that they can remember. And then you're going to want to let your planner know, or let them know ahead of time, hey, before we eat, before introductions, I need you to come help bustle my dress. Because the planner can be there and they can help, but the person that actually saw the bustle being done is going to be the one that knows where the buttons go.
Mom, maid of honor, sister, somebody that usually was there. And again, the planner sometimes knows, but some of them are 3 buttons.
Yeah, some 25.
30 buttons.
Yeah.
And that it could take a long time. And then what happens is like, oh, we missed one. Now we got to back up. I mean, it can take a long time. Literally, I've seen the bustle take 20 plus minutes easily.
Yeah. So keep that in mind for your intros. And then sometimes people want to like speed through intros too. And this is something you can talk about, I'm sure. They'll talk about maybe doing like a separate song for each couple that's being introduced, like your bridal party. Does that really hinder the timing, or is that, what does that do?
Not for the overall night. Because usually if I'm introducing and there's, 15 people in the wedding party, it's going to be the length, very little bit of difference between that. The hard part is it gets really choppy because you want one song for everybody and they want the recognizable part of the song. So I'm either queuing it up, or beforehand, I'm spending a lot of time like editing the song. So I have just that section. So I don't have to like put the song up, cue it to 117 while they're coming down the stairs and onto the dance floor. Everyone's staring at me where I'm like, hold on.
Yeah. So there's a lot that goes into that.
Yeah.
If you're going to do it, you really need to get specific on what portions of the song you want for each couple and make sure they know what song they're coming into. And it has to be orchestrated properly.
Yeah. And most of the stuff we're talking about today is if it's like a 3 to 5 minute difference, I mean, you're going to have ebbs and flows over your night a lot. But we're talking about the things that like now we're looking at, that's a 20-minute bite out of your time. Like for the bustle can be something that just is often overlooked. But if you're going to go in and get your hair touched up, put your lipstick back on or whatever, that's a great time to like, well, let's bustle while we're doing that. Like something, that's the whole thing here is like, what can we overlap and what should you not overlap? Which brings us to dinner,
right?
Food, eating. Let's talk about this.
Sure.
So what are the options on eating?
So there are many options nowadays. I mean, you can do buffet, a plated dinner, you can have stations, you can have food trucks. So there's all sorts of options for when it comes to feeding your guests. And some work better than others as far as like timing is concerned. And one of the biggest factors here, you guys, on all of this, honestly, is your guest count. I know you've heard this before, but especially when it comes to the food, right? Because it takes longer to feed 200 people than it does 50 people. And if you have less guests, that changes your options a little bit because you could have just one food truck out there, right? Serving guests in a single file line. You can't do that with 250 people unless you want dinner to take 2 hours.
Yeah. And not every place can, well, just overall, buffet tends to go a little bit quicker than plated because plated, usually they have to have more staff and they're going to, maybe the salad was pre-plated before and it was out there when they came in, they eat that, but then they have to go bust those plates up and then come out with the main. And then usually they're going to be bussing those as well because we don't want dirty plates and dirty dishes on everybody's table all night. So there's a lot of time involved in that.
And talk to your caterers about this, right? We are not caterers. We just want, they may have an incredible team that can, come with 15 servers and really do it up for you and not really change the timing. But in general, if we're talking like apples to apples, I've seen the buffets be quicker.
Usually. And then the stations is kind of cool too. We have one venue in town that does it a lot where there's one corner of the room is a carving station. One corner is like a taco bar. One corner is a salad bar. And then maybe they have the beverages in the other corner. And the good thing is it's almost like you have 4 lines at the buffet and people just spread out and they can go to the line which they think is the least long. Or they have 2 carving stations. They're both identical. And what I'm doing as the MC beforehand, I'm going around saying like, what's here, what's there, what's there? Because I want to be able to direct people because that also will help speed things up. A good DJ and a good MC will not help you not waste time because people are like, they got to go there themselves and like, oh, I didn't know this was just the beverages. I was looking for the salad thing. Where's the salad thing? Right. Some rooms can be really big. And navigating these rooms, sometimes it can be a little crowded.
Exactly.
You had a very crowded wedding on Saturday.
I did. We fit them all in there and it was great. But that is something to consider with dinner. If you're looking to save time there, you can definitely do something like that where it's more up and mingling. People can go as they please to pick each station. But again, budget is going to be a factor, so that may not work for you. But something that doesn't work with dinner, we've talked about this where we get this suggested to us sometimes. Does overlapping other things with your meal work?
Overlapping, some things worked well, but overlapping during dinner it comes up all the time and some of it just does not work. For example, somebody will say, we're gonna open up the buffet and we're just gonna jump right into our first dances. And I'm like, are you though? Are you gonna? So imagine the 2 of you out there saying, ladies and gentlemen, dancing together for the first time as husband and wife. And here we start the song and yet your guests are walking across the dance floor with plates of food or tables are being released and you have a table walking across or not walking across, waiting. So you can't, I don't want to say can't because you can do whatever you want, honestly, but just think through these things because what you don't want that. This is what I think. You don't want people walking around talking and being disruptive during your first dance. Toasts are the same thing. They go, we're going to open up the buffet and we're going to start the toast. People need to be focused and it's really hard to talk on one of these things if people aren't listening.
Yes.
And it's very disruptive because and I feel sad for the best man, maid of honor. And I've gotten on my mic and been like, shh, I've shushed the crowd.
Because
I try
it's
to get
really
them all
hard on them.
Because people are, and they're far away. They don't realize something's happening. And they're just like, talking. But if they're eating too, or if they're in the line for the buffet, there's a lot of like, so do the potatoes have any nuts? I'm allergic to nuts.
Potatoes have nuts in them?
Whatever it is, right? Does the dressing, does this gravy have anything in it? Like, or they're just like, can I get a little bit more of this? Can I get some of that? All those conversations. And then they sit down. Are you here? I'm here. Clink, clank, clink, clank, clink. All that din in the background is competing with your dances or your toast. So my thing is at least get them through the buffet.
Right.
Once the last table has gone through and they sit
down,
then you can look at maybe going to do dances or toast.
Exactly. Yeah. No, and that's a really good point.
That's not the whole hour usually. You can get everybody through the buffet usually in the
40 minutes.
Front half of that hour, maybe a half hour.
Yeah. But it really then depends also on your guest count and how things are laid out logistically, which is our next point. Okay.
The layout.
The layout of your space. So sometimes we'll get the suggestion of, hey, I'm going to have dinner in one room and I'm going to have everyone, maybe the tables in another room and then dancing in another room. Something you really need to be mindful of and that you just touched on is that what really helps the flow of the event during these times is your MC, okay? Is somebody on the mic directing people as to where to go.
Usually it's your DJ.
Usually it's your DJ.
The MC is the master of ceremony, the person making the announcement, the person telling people what's going on, where are we going, what's next, right?
Right. And if that person can't reach those people because they're in another room, it makes it very challenging. So we have to be able to not only get speakers into another space, that's one thing, because you could play music in another room and that's fine. But if he can't see what's happening, he can't really MC it effectively. So that is something to be mindful of. If you've got kind of separate spaces and you want to utilize them that way, you really have to think through, are they going to be able to hear the announcements, and does that work?
Because just moving the guests after the ceremony, the officiant usually says, hey, media family, stay here. Everyone else, please enjoy cocktail hour. I make that announcement a lot, but sometimes the officiant does because they've got a mic. I usually have a mic on them, him or her. But then after cocktail, sometimes I'll have music out of the cocktail space, but I rarely have my whole setup out there with microphones and everything else.
Right.
And they may be outside. And I can't tell you how many times. And oftentimes it's the planner. And I'm not trying to hate on the planners, but they'll say,
okay.
Can you make an announcement? Everybody come inside. And I go, well, here's my stuff right here with us. Everyone else is outside. Like people think this microphone is just like a people of the world, hear me. Like everyone, can you like this voice from the heavens, like, please, the reception hall is open. I mean, it doesn't work. So I mean, the way I do it is I go out to the farthest person, the smallest group of 5, the furthest from the door. And I say, hey, we're opening the doors. Check out the seating chart. And then people know they're going to move at some point. Once they start seeing, they're like, hey,
then everybody follows. Right.
Yeah. Because the people right outside the door that are wanting to get in the air conditioning, they'll go in, they'll know. It's the people way outside. So you got to hurt, but you have to account for that time because moving all the crowd, moving 100 plus people takes time. If you want to be sitting down starting dinner at 6:30, you better start moving that crowd at 6:10.
Yes, exactly. And that's what I do as a planner. And it's mostly because I'm married to a DJ and I know he can't reach the people out in the cocktail hour.
She gets this 24/7.
But, you know, there's a team of people there with us that are helping do this. And again, if you don't have in the budget or in the vision to have the team of people like we're talking about, have someone assigned to go out there and make that announcement or start guiding people inside so that you can get things moving. So the next thing
I don't like to yell. People go up and think like, ladies and gentlemen. I go, oh, don't do that.
Please don't yell.
They know they're going to move at some point. Just start the crowd moving.
Yeah.
And eventually there may be that last 1 or 2 groups that are over there like, you know, you either sell or you step off. I'm like, okay, we're going inside.
They're having a combo.
Riveting conversation. I'm sure you're having.
Right.
Good luck, guys. Once the bar moves, do you shut the bar down? People, they'll move.
Oh, that'll do it for sure.
That'll move every time.
Yeah. So the next thing that can take up a big chunk of time and can really just throw a grenade in your reception is what?
The toasts.
The toasts, for sure. And people know this, right? You've been to weddings where, you know, whoever's giving a toast doesn't maybe have a time limit or isn't aware that they're talking as long as they are. So there's a few things you can do to kind of help that like beforehand, right?
Because when we're doing a timeline, because of course the planners do a timeline, but I've done hundreds of timelines because there's not always a planner at my events. And then I end up doing one and I do one anyway. But if they say, here's toast on the timelines, usually I put 15 minutes. But that of anything that I put on the timeline or we put on the timeline, if anything is a stab in the dark, it is the toast, because you'll have 2 people that both talk 20 minutes, or you'll have 9 people that all talk 30 seconds. So the first thing is how many people, like limit the number of people that are going to give a toast, right?
Right.
Because I have seen it where there's 9, seriously. And if you think everybody does 3 minutes, do the math. There's a half hour.
Yes.
If everybody generous, right? I mean, but most people, it's just like before, like some people are talkers and some people like that crowd. They get a little laugh and they're like, oh, they're just going to go with it. And I always ask, do you have notes or are you winging it? That's something I ask before I let people know who's doing the toast, right? Because usually best man, maid of honor, father of the bride. But if you have somebody that ruined your cousin's wedding because they just went on and on and on, have them give a toast where?
Maybe at the rehearsal dinner.
Oh, send them to the rehearsal dinner.
Yeah, like give them a chance to talk then. The other thing, we've talked about this, and we're just going to share this with you as our opinion, but a lot of you guys, like, not you guys specifically, but people in general call it a speech, right? And there's a huge difference, I think, mentally for people when they're planning a speech versus when you're planning a toast. A toast is supposed to be, you know, maybe a quick story about how you know the couple, congratulations on their wedding, and cheers. A speech, people plan pages and pages and pages of notes.
PowerPoint presentation that goes with it.
So really kind of drive home the point that it's a toast, and then give them a time limit. Tell them you have
It's your best decision.
up to 5 minutes, or if you want it even shorter, 3 minutes, right?
Yeah.
You can get a lot in 3 minutes. Honestly, you really can.
And if you tell your talkers 3 minutes, they're going to go 5 anyway. Or 7.
Right.
But like I said, if you have 5 people giving toast, which is very common, because if father of the bride wants to say something, father of the groom may want to jump up there, or the parents of the groom. If you have a step, they might want to jump in there. Best man, maid of honor, and then you have your other maid of honor, your matron of honor. Maybe she wants to get up. You have 2 best men, and they both want to say. And if one person goes long, inevitably the other people want to try to match that time. It's a weird thing. It's like that's how people think. And the other thing I give them sometimes, I say, if you don't have something at the end, like they don't know how to wrap it up, they go, "And I love you guys," and you're the greatest. And remember that one time at spring break? And I'm like,
yeah,
no,
they just keep.
No, they don't know how to end it. So they just keep going and going and going. I tell them, raise your glass and just say, cheers to the couple. And everyone else will go, cheers.
Yeah.
Or let's all raise a glass to the newlywed. However you do it, raise that glass and then end it. Like finish it. But tell them to keep it short. Otherwise, it'll just go and go and go. Yeah.
And the other thing that can be helpful, and this is a good tip for you guys too, is for the couple at some point, it doesn't have to be at the end of toast, but it can be at the beginning of dinner. But for you guys to stand up and do a thank you. And the reason this saves time is if you don't have time during dinner, maybe to work the room. Okay. And what that means is go table to table and talk to every table, because that takes a significant amount of time. You can get up at the end of toast, like I mentioned, or before dinner, and give shout outs to the people that have traveled, say thank you for coming. That way you've addressed the crowd and you've said thank you, and you don't feel obligated to go hit every table.
And you can even put it in there like, we're trying to get to talk to everybody, we're trying to we want to get the dancing going, that happens all the time. But so we'll try to get you whatever. But over the course of the weekend, if you have brunch the next day, and the people that came from out of town, they'll be around all weekend. That's great. That's like why you'll eat first. Usually you'll sit down, we'll do introductions. You'll sit down, you can eat first. And then the reason you eat first is while that time, again, overlapping these things, while everyone else is either waiting to go to the buffet or finish their food, you can hit that table and go to the next table. But it's good to have a game plan for that too. Your upper generations that may not be around till midnight with the party, they're probably going to leave early. Make sure you hit that table. Your people from out of town
that you haven't seen in forever.
If you're not going to see them the next day, if they're flying out the next morning or you're going to your honeymoon, right? Because that happens a lot too. I got a flight in the morning. We're off to Hawaii or wherever. If you're not going to see the people that came in from out of town, maybe hit that generation or that table. But if you've got cousins that are going to be on the dance floor all night, or people you work with, you're going to see at work Monday morning, that's a table you can be like, see you on the dance floor, and just cut that table out.
Yes.
So, because every table will be 20 minutes. And time for the couple stands still. You have no idea how fast it's going. And again, that the whole thing, at the end, they'll be like, oh my gosh, it's over. Oh my gosh.
Right.
But you don't want it to feel like it was really fast. And we try so hard not to feel like it's so rushed for the couple, but boy,
we do.
It goes by fast.
But understand that us as your wedding team, we're behind the scenes. And our goal is for you to enjoy the evening. So that's why we're giving these tips. That's why we are encouraging you to save time where you can, if it's a priority for you to get to the dancing, right? So the other thing, and I think this is about the last thing we'll touch on, is what happens if you do a faux send-off, okay? And what a faux send-off is maybe your photographer is contracted for only 6 hours. And so they have to leave early, or video. And so you still want to get those photographs or those videos, but you can't do it at the end of the night. You do kind of a fake send off maybe earlier, right? And this can be a little bit jarring to the event as far as to
the flow of the party. Yeah.
If you stop the entire party and push all your guests outside, okay, and then you do the send off, you light the sparklers, that is a really large amount of time in the middle of your dancing. Okay. So something that you can do if you need to do a faux send off is just grab your immediate family, bridal party, do a smaller condensed version of a send off. Those people are sticking around, right? Leave everybody else inside, leave the party going. And then at the end of the night, you can do an actual send off, right?
And sometimes I announce it, sometimes I don't, but if people can see it too, if there's glass doors and they see people out there lighting sparklers, you're going to get a lot more people than just those people, because they're like, oh, they're doing a thing. And there's nights where the room clears out. I'm like, well,
we tried.
If I start to see it clear out, I'll be like, hey, the party's going to 11. Come back in, everybody. It's 9:30, because I don't want them to think the night's done. That would be awful.
Mhm.
But there are people that will sneak out, and your fake send off sometimes turns into an actual send off, which is another good reason not to send them out. Plus, the party runs on momentum. As the DJ, when I get that dance floor going, I want to keep it going, and I have my finger on the pulse. And that's why it's like anytime you have to like stop the party, bring the lights up, cut the cake late at night, and then everybody wants to what? Sit and eat cake. And I'm trying to like, come on, get the dance floor going again. Let's get back on the dance floor. But they're waiting in line to get their cake, and then they're going to sit and eat their cake. That's like another 15, 20 minutes of the party that's just really kind of like flatlined. And I'm like, hit him again. Okay, we got a pulse. One more time. Boom, boom. Okay, we're getting some momentum back.
Here we go.
So
dancing
from
time.
my perspective, once we open that dance floor, like I want to just keep it going. I want to have my foot on the pedal.
Yeah.
Just keep that party going. Because that's the other thing, if you bump into a cousin 2 years later, they're not going to be like, oh my God, the Shafari chairs. Maybe you have that one cousin that'll remember the chairs. But if they had a good time, they'll be like, man, did I have fun at your party. Oh,
they will remember
all night.
Fun.
It was so fun. They'll remember the beautiful bride, and maybe if the food was great or if the cake fell over. We don't want that to be the thing.
We don't want the cake.
Oh my God, the cake fell over. But if you have vendors, like I said, if you were lucky enough to have it in the budget to hire even one professional, maybe you just hired a professional photographer and everybody else's cousins, brother-in-laws, and family members doing it, which is great if you have those people that can pick up that slack. But I would lean a little more heavily on the advice from a vendor, a professional, than your cousin that plans the birthday party last weekend that said, I got it. I know all of it. I'm like, okay. Or there's always that one person that's an expert that has no background to back it up, but they're just they could be fantastic, and they could be a great person that's going to help a lot. But lean on your vendors, because like I said, we see this. We see more weddings in a month than most people do in a lifetime. That is a true statement. How many did we have last weekend?
We had
as a team?
6.
6 last weekend.
In 2 days, because we didn't have anything on Sunday.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty light weekend.
Yeah.
So this time of year.
So it's just something to be mindful. These are all tips, you guys, and you can take them or leave them. We promise you won't hurt our feelings. We know this is your day, and we are just here to give you our experience because we've been doing this a long time. You can follow us on TikTok. You can follow us on Instagram. We now are releasing podcast episodes weekly, so keep coming back. You can watch them on YouTube. It's so exciting, you guys. But if you enjoy what we're talking about, please leave a review or leave us a comment, and we will try to cover any topics you suggest, because we're always looking for suggestions. But we'll leave you with...
Every wedding day is very personal, and they're all different. No two events are the same. So I would say, do you. Don't let anybody talk you into something that you really don't want to do, or talk you out of something that you have your heart set on.
So true.
It's your day.
Happy wedding planning, y'all.
Happy
we'll
wedding.
see you next time. Bye.
Hey, so thanks for listening to our podcast. If you found any of this information helpful and you know somebody who may be engaged or is a maid of honor, maybe you could tell them and share it with a friend.
Absolutely. So screenshot this episode, share it on Instagram, on Facebook, and tag the wedding duo. We promise to share the love back. Also, if you are interested in more resources or the show notes, you can go to theweddingduo.co. We have one-on-one virtual sessions, a shop, all sorts of fun stuff. Check it out.